If this is working, hello, welcome. I'm starting a new painting today. And what I'm going to do is this little arrangement of roses on this canvas that is um, painted with some acrylic marks, just some random colors. And I'm setting everything up. I've got a palette cam view today. I hope this is all good to go. And I'm going to check if this is in fact working and good to go. And I'll be right back. So don't go anywhere. What? What did you say?
I heard you.
Did you get me a big cup of beans on
Yeah. And if you want, like, there's this like little black part. I don't know if that matters to you in YouTube.
Oh,
So if you want to
yeah,
like
okay.
raise that back one up a little bit. Perfect.
Okay. All sorts of learning curve. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just on this acrylic primed canvas, I'm going to kind of just sketch out a little compositional map, otherwise known as a drawing. But then I'm going to jump right into using a palette knife and some block out white. This is a technique that I was kind of working with the past few paintings, and I like it. It's getting messier and looser. So I like to start with things that I know I want to include that are at all close to the edges. For example, there's this rose back here. I wouldn't want to go any further down this composition than this. And I'm just going for like the 3 roses. I kind of want to fit them in this like kind of arc through here. But like I said, I need to make sure that I'm not bringing them close to the edges in a way that I'm going to be unhappy about later. And I'm sure we've all been unhappy about the way that things have landed in a composition. I'm also using a brush that happens to be quite dead. I'm going to switch that out in a minute, but it's just been left to dry, sadly. I think it got missed. All right. So parameters. I've set where I want the very bottom of the left-hand rose to go. And then I have where I want the rose on the right to be. Okay, so I've got bottom left, upper right. What I'm gonna do is look at my still life setup up here, and I'm just gonna visually kind of find the middle. Now you're not gonna be able to see exactly what I'm seeing because I'm seeing out of my eyeballs and you're not seeing out of my eyeballs. But I'm just guessing, where is the middle? This is where I think the middle is. I'll point right here. And I just take a visual measurement. Did just shove my hand in the acrylic paint end of this paintbrush. I'm checking my guess to make sure that I am correct. Okay. Yeah, I think that's about the middle. I'm gonna call it like right here. So then I find the middle between this mark here, which is my right side parameter, my left side parameter. The middle between them is probably about right here. Okay, this brush is actually driving me crazy right now. New brush time. All right. All right. So we're just putting a mark, and right now it's just a mark. And now I'll just kind of rough check. I know that the right side of that rose hit just to the right of the center, which I'm going to place this darker mark here. That's going to be our right side of the center rose parameter. So sometimes I'll kind of look and like draw angles between the bottoms of two objects just to see how are these things aligned. So right now I'm just kind of using my paintbrush to observe the angle between the two lower sets of petals right here. Okay, so it looks like to me I can kind of see the two roses on the left shaping up a little bit. I don't know if this is coming through on camera. And I can kind of see the rose on the right. Now I want to look at the space between them, negative space between them. There's not as much as I currently have, plus the one on the right is feeling really small, so I'll just move it over. That feels better. Bottom of the one on the right next to the bottom of the center rose. That's another little key point to kind of look at. Okay. All right. So, because my goal is to be very, very loose with a lot of this, I'm not going to spend that much longer with the drawing, but I do have, I don't know, I have a couple more things I want to do. And then we're just going to get into some very quick palette knife painting because I want to create a really, really messy loose layer. I did this in probably the more extreme form of this that I've ever done the other day for a painting, not currently pictured. And I really had such a great time with it. And I feel like the messier I got with these early layers, the better it was for me. And that's why I did this like underpainting in these colors, just because it was much more dramatic to work over. And when I started that last piece, I was going over an old junky canvas, and so that was really helpful. Okay, well, let's just start. I know that does not seem like a long process for the drawing, and it's kind of nuts, but we're just gonna go for it. Now, one of the things I've been doing, and you might notice you can now see my palette, how exciting. I'm trying to mix, but not too thoroughly. I want to leave like a variation on the palette knife. So when we see this palette knife, it's not like a pure, nicely mixed, all, you know, homogeneous color. And what I want to do is start to build up a little light edge. This is kind of the focal area right through here, right? So we're going to really start to define some values. And now I kind of want to go darker. But I paint this a lot, honest. I paint this background a lot, and I was considering changing it. And then I thought it would be kind of fun to just visually change this. And I was thinking I might make this like a very high key picture. And what I mean by just like visually change it is like we're not going to really change the fabric. Maybe I'll make this just a really kind of light, washy, high key version of what I'm seeing. And what I'm doing now is a palette knife application of like an acrylic paint called Blockout White. It does just about what you would think it does. It's very like wall primer. So this is going on almost too cleanly though. I should probably start messing things up a little bit more. I still need some nice darks to really, even in a high key painting, you do need some darks. You've got to have some contrast, otherwise you don't have an image. And this is all just underpainting. I'm not trying to get like exact colors, shapes, anything yet. I'm really just building this up, very early stages, just almost like a drawing, but it's a drawing that offers quite a bit of surface and texture. All of which I find really useful as you're kind of building up the layers to your painting. So. Yeah, a little bit lost. It's gonna happen, don't worry, we'll get there. All right, this is all background, so I should probably just go all the way to the top so that's not confusing. And I'm trying to like apply it in a way that's not perfectly clean. Hopefully soon you guys will see an image. It's not going to be that soon though, so just to tell you, it's going to be another couple of minutes. All right, I'm making some decisions about like, okay, I want the background to be a little bit lighter than the shadow of this rose. And in reality, it is actually a little bit lighter. But I am definitely detecting that and then pushing that. And like I said, I just had this inspiration to kind of make this a more high key version of what I'm seeing. And by that I just mean it will have mostly light values. It's not going to have like the full range of values emphasized equally, but the full range of values will be there. So I think that's like definitely an important thing to remember. So we will have dark we will have medium, we will have light, but it's mostly gonna be light. Love all the variation the palette knife just kind of naturally gives and lends itself to. So we're still kind of looking for big values, big shapes. And I think I'll just focus on this one rose just so you can kind of see it come together for a minute. And I'm doing that mostly like for the purposes of filming. If I were just doing this on my own, I don't think I would worry about having this come together yet. But like generally the rose is kind of like light on top. And then we have kind of more of your shadow side. So we're adding some blue, we're cooling this down. Oh my gosh, I forget you guys can see my palette. I keep forgetting. Okay. So often I try to locate like what is the key edge that makes us see this flower. I mean, I think this one's pretty obvious. It's up here. This is the showstopper. This is the edge. This is where the action's at. And I'm not trying to lock in, so I'm gonna break this up because I'm too locked in there. Okay. And I don't need to make those final decisions of like, oh, it comes to a point right here. That's too soon to be doing that. So, and I did start to sense that was happening. And we don't want that. Now we have to make a decision about the value of these leaves. If you can see, I'm kind of just grabbing some green, mixing a little bit of the magenta into it to dull it down. And then I think brown is like a dark yellow. And yellow is a regular yellow. Because I kind of lost the green in that, so I'm going a little more yellow and blue. I lost the green in the green. Now if you remember, we are high key. We are not going super low key. That doesn't mean we won't have any low key darker values, but that's an interesting choice. Maybe I kind of like that. Maybe we'll go just a little darker than that. A little more brown, a little more blue. It's very gray, but next to this like underpainted pink, I could start to sense a little leaf color, maybe. So my plan for this is to move around, get this image kind of emerging, build up quite a bit of lovely, hopefully, texture, and then switch to oil, at which time it will become an amazing painting. A good time was had by all. All right. Maybe some of you can begin to, like, you can kind of guess, like, where these flowers are going to be. Maybe just a little so far. I wouldn't blame you if you couldn't, though. They're not so easy to see quite yet. I can kind of see them. And I am convinced that starting this way has been a huge, I don't know, benefit, help to me personally. I think it like really gets me to a place with like color very easily that, I don't know, I'm a huge fan of starting this way right now. Big fan, big fan. So I kind of like a little actual surface texture too, like not totally opposed to a little like bumps in the paint. You know, I think the oil paint really catches kind of nicely on that. All right, so this value, I'm not gonna, you know, be satisfied with it initially. I'm just gonna tell you that right now, and that's fine. I know I want a high key piece. I'm gonna try for that little challenge. And that requires, I think, a little bit more finesse. It just requires that you spend more time developing very specific, very intentional little bits of contrast along the edges. So, because that's not the kind of thing you ever want to start with, in my opinion, you're probably not going to see that level of contrast quite yet. Let me get a little, and that level of like edge detail and the level of like kind of pop that we'll be able to get eventually. Separating these flowers out a little bit. The fun thing about painting this way is like there is just nothing permanent about it. I can really change these colors up. Layering over them is gonna just make things look dramatically different. Trying to preserve just like a little bit of that blue along the edge for now. Back to our greenery gray. That gray is going to look significantly more green next to that like peachy red that I just laid down. So that's good news. Hey, good news. This is a great little place for a little tendril of leaf. A little bit more. Blackout white really covers, it really makes the color so much more opaque. It's not always the white that you want to use when working with acrylic because it's really too strong for certain things. I think like titanium white is much better, but I'm using it for an underpainting effect. And I know that's kind of like odd when you're looking at this, going like, what is the process here? But hopefully, if you stick around or press fast forward at some point in the future when this is done, see how acrylic turns into the drawing turns into the underpainting, turns into the oil painting. All right, green, pink, a muted color, more pink. Nice, muted. Probably gonna recede. I don't have this rose kind of covered in enough. So I see it sneak in front of the light section of the next flower. And now I might have to like commit to some actual drawing work in a minute. And it's not that I'm opposed to it. I love drawing. Even drawing accurately. But I'm just avoiding it for as long as possible for this particular style of painting and this process of painting. Just because it gets me the results that I am going for. And I think if you try this too, it's all about like loosening up. This is what I hear from most people. Really want to loosen up and work a little bit without so much right and wrong and tension and like just to be a little bit more free with what you're doing. Getting a little darker back in here. All right. Now we've got some covering to do on the bottom part of the background. I want to warm this up a little bit. That cadmium red will warm us up a little bit. And this is nice. It's not like the most exciting color in the world, but it's not muted. It's not terribly bright. It is a little bit muted, and that's really where I like to start. So we're just taking this These roses are really not popping yet, but we'll get them to pop. We just have to be very selective with where we want the contrast. So, for example, maybe we'll try going a little darker in the background. Having that rose a little lighter. Keeping it messy. I don't want that edge to be finished right now. Like, I definitely do not want the pressure of having to come up with like where I want the finished edge of that petal. Absolutely not. We're gonna save that for later. And that's why I'm trying to think, very soft, like, I think you can kind of see it. I'm looking at my screen to see like what you can see. I think you can sort of kind of see it. Maybe. All right, let's see. I want to separate this. I just want to make this a little bit more pink again. Sometimes I will even take additional white in a layer and just really hit that so much lighter than it needs to be if I want like a color to go over that white and look very saturated. So you almost have to like lighten up the base a little bit before you can get a nice set. In any case, this is one place where I think I'm gonna just push a little bit darker. So it's really getting into the focal area of this piece, right in here. Totally missed. And back to the leaf color. Let's get this leaf shape just filled in a little bit. And I'm focused more on directional marks at this point and just the overall shape than like individual leaf details. And I'm gonna be kind of going in here and carving out into some negative shapes like into the leaves. So I'll kind of go back and like break them up a little bit. So definitely keeping that in mind. Okay, so I'm going this way, this way. I know I'm like blocking the camera's view, but I just have to get something going on this bottom part. And with some lighter reddish orangey color. Here we go. We're gonna take that and use this as a little background shaping color. This will be a nice little point of contrast right in this area. That's a nice descriptive one. And like, I like this part. This is just a cool part that I just don't think I would have ever gotten without using this palette knife block-in thing. Now, will I ruin that? Maybe right now, but I like it for now, and that's something. So I think just follow the thread. If there's something, anything that you like about your piece, about your process, that really just kind of just feels like a breadcrumb to follow, I seriously think that is the entirety of what you're supposed to do as an artist. Just follow the small, tiny breadcrumb that keeps you going. So, I don't know. That's just me. I think if there's like anything that works, and there's always something that works, at some point it was working. Leaf shape, little variation. Light. Well, it definitely goes back and forth for me between looking like almost successful and then I'm like, uh-oh, this looks totally off the rails. But I'm fine with that at this stage. We're gonna be okay. I know it'll get there. Plus, this is still all just palette knife, you know? I think it's really a great, like, starting point, but this is not supposed to be a thing that looks like a thing yet. What a beautiful gray that you see, the kind of like turquoise, cobalt teal color, and magenta can make this beautiful like grayish color together. And the same holds true for any similarly colored pigments. Like, it doesn't matter what the name of the pigment is. That could be a viridian green and a magenta, or an alizarin, or even like a permanent rose. So if you get the purpley red and you get the greenish blue, or the teal sort of green, bluish green, I guess, you're gonna get a very beautiful gray. So this is that example. I think that is just a lovely kind of deep purpley color. And I just want to push this value a little more toward the shadow side, but without getting too perfect. Gotta keep it all messed up, everybody. areas block in. And it starts out really uneven, but as you kind of like work the paint around on the surface, it gets a little bit mixed. It's kind of like that variation allows you to stop wherever you like. You can kind of keep it really streaky and have lots of different colors to go on. But if it's too much and you can't see your image, well, then that's different. Just gonna feel this here. Still pretty wet. I might even go in and just do like, this technique that I want to kind of show you, a little line drawing into this. I'm going to say that's going to speed along the identification process. Got to identify what's what. And I'm going to use the same color on the other side. So I feel like this other side is the part of the painting that I need to spend a minute like getting this reined in. We can't really tell what's going on here, and part of it's a drawing thing, and just even a color thing. I think it's just not unified enough to make sense yet. So we are going to unify this background color a little bit more. love to like see little colors poking through as I'm working, and I feel like you can use like all of that as very good color inspiration. So I don't want to be like super clean. And I know this doesn't look clean at all if you're thinking about this in terms of like a finished painting, because this is not even the material that I'll do the finished painting in. That's going to be an oil, and this is just like essentially cheap acrylic and wall primer. And I'm doing this as an underpainting again. So if you're, you know, kind of thinking, what is happening here? There is a plan. The plan includes getting this to a point where we can recognize the image. We have some nice surface built up. It's very quick to build stuff up like this because it's acrylic. It dries so fast. So I love to start out this way because it just gives you a lot of mileage. You're like off and running. I find also, of course, you know, just even the motion of palette knife painting is so satisfying. It's really satisfying. If you haven't done it, I'm sure you can imagine. And yes, it is that satisfying, and I highly recommend that you do it and try it. All right, so I sort of kind of see at least a little bit of my objects. This was kind of an unnecessary little jaunt into the background over here, but maybe not totally unnecessary. I really do like that weird little line. So let's take a minute to solidify that. I hope this doesn't ruin it. Okay. So to solidify it, I'm just like upping the contrast. I just went like one little bit lighter, one little bit stronger in paint. And that's not to say that's there for the final, but got a little more solid. Okay. We do have a little drier surface, so we can get in here. Finding a good brush, very good brush. Here we go. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to draw. A little bit of drawing just to kind of, I just need to see like where I'm thinking this rose is gonna go, because it's definitely, it's not out here and I'm not sure it's in my head, but let's see if we can figure something out. Some things, if they're not out here, I'm not worried because like I know exactly where it's gonna go, but this I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Let's see what we can do. I think this is still pretty wet. I'm just like defining the edge a little bit. this petal bigger on that rose. And this a little bit more vertical, probably cut in a little. All right, so the next little area I want to focus on is just to unify this shadow plane under this petal. Underpainting colors really showing through. It's kind of fun to work with, but it really breaks up the form that you're painting in until you have enough of it covered that you can sort of start to see things pull together. So we'll try to make this a little bit more dynamic, but I'm not, again, I'm not allowed to lock in yet, people. Can't do it. So we squint. All the detail that gets so maddening to put in too early. Then you're like, why isn't this painting working anymore? You know, I think that's really the case. It's just going to detail too early almost always hurts the painting. So I'm just gonna like scrub lightly through. I'm kind of scumbling with this block out white. Again, this is the underpainting. white. We'll leave ourselves some possibilities with this contour. I don't have to name anything yet, especially if I make a few random marks that kind of leave those are clearly not highlights. They don't even sit on the rose. Nothing to see here, nothing to worry about. Darker here. We're just gonna change that contour and unify all of this. I'm back. I had to get more paint. Oh my goodness. Did I forget to mention this? My apologies. My apologies. Okay. Looking at what we're doing here. Let's just continue with this little high key rose painting before I sign off for today. What I want to do is unify up this background even more. Here we go. Yeah, we were working on the shape of this lovely rose here. So it's like you want to be correct, but you don't want to be committed to a specific shape, but you don't want to be like wrong. Just as easy as all that. And then for the rose, I think what I'd like to do is just really get some lighter value in as the base for where my lights are going. And for me, like the color is just gonna go on so much better. We have a little bit of a stronger light base, so I'll just push these lights a little lighter and then call it a day for this session on this painting. We'll come back to it. And when I do, it'll likely be street, maybe. All right, so that looks like